Good afternoon, everyone. So, today I will be discussing about, let us guess what it is. I have been displaying some of the images in front of you all: an umbrella, a hat, and a jacket. What does this mean? Can anyone guess? Put it under the comment section. Since we have to propel further with our topic, so I will be disclosing what topic we will be talking about. As you can guess, umbrella represents protection from rain. Hat represents protection from heat, sun, and jacket represents protection from heat against winter, cold, extreme cold ke against we can use coat. So, what we will be studying today is about exclusively about weather. Exclusively about weather, the climate, and the adaptations of animals to particular climate they are living in. So this is our today's topic. Now, weather. What is weather? Is it stable? Does it remain stable every time or does it changes? Does it have several parameters from which we can measure weathers? These are some questions we can address when we talk about weathers. Yes, weather is never stable, first thing. Second thing, we can predict weather. There are several forecasting services which, for example, meteorological department does the job of predicting weather. It just doesn't predict without any scientific basis. It does use different technologies and different parameters to measure, to predict weather. There are temperature, humidity, and rainfall. How these three parameters are used, we will understand that. These are the three parameters. These are the three parameters which we use to, show the weather report. This basically gives a clear understanding to different viewers that if the temperature is high or whether the temperature is low, whether we are feeling warm or whether we are feeling extreme cold in a particular region or particular country. For India, in case of India, India's meteorological department actively works on weather prediction. Now, this is one of a sample of the weather report. That is, it shows about 19 degrees Celsius high and 9.6 centigrade low. Not centigrade, sorry, it's centigrade low. So these are some of the reports through which we can get a clear understanding that whether the weather is high or low, temperature is high or low, whether the environment is humid or we are having a rainfall or not. Next, how one can identify how much rainfall it is actually we are experiencing. There is a instrument called rain gauge. Rain gauge is basically a collecting device which collects the rainfall, which comprises of a measuring cylinder with a conical flask fitted inside it and a collecting chamber placed at the top of it. And there are several measuring measuring units you can observe here, a measuring scale you can observe here, that is used to measure the of the raindrop. From this we can understand that how much of rainfall particular area is experiencing. So this is the construction of the rain gauge. This region we call it as receiver, this we call it as funnel, this is the tipping bucket from which water gets collected. It's a storage tank, and further it goes on to measuring tube from which we can understand how much rainfall is being experienced in particular area. This much is clear, I hope. Moving on to, as I said, our weather is never stable. So we should understand that how exactly these changes are happening. We can compare this, or we can record the temperature every day and we can make a graph out of it. For example, if you see, this graph basically shows the variation of maximum temperature from particular time period, that is from 3rd to 9th August in year 2006. This was recorded around 2006. So let us plot a graph in x-axis we can put the dates 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and in y-axis we can put the temperatures which we have recorded in. Like the minimum temperature, these are the data which have been collected by using different instruments which we will be discussing further. But for now, just understand this data is readily available for us. So from this we can just plot our graph and understand the temperature variations in a very clear manner. That is, from on 3rd recorded temperature was 26, on 4th it was 23, on 5th it was 25, 6th it was 22, 7th it was 25, 8th it was 23, and 9th it was 24. So most minimum temperature one can observe is 22 here. So we can start the graph from 21, and the highest temperature one can notice here is 26 degrees Celsius. You can just take one more 6 degrees Celsius more on y-axis, and accordingly we can plot. On 3rd we got 26, so we will plot on 26. On 4th we got 24, we will plot on 24. On 5th we got 25. So we can plot on 25. Similarly, other data can be plotted in the similar manner. We get to see a pattern here. Okay. So by observing this, what one can interpret? One thing we can clearly say that temperature is never stable. The weather is never stable. You can see the rise and fall in temperatures. One day it is 26, one day it is 23. So we cannot strongly say that yes, 26, so throughout it will be 26. We cannot predict that. It will change even in 1 hour also. So weather is highly unpredictable, but some amount of predictions can be done with help of certain instruments and with the help of statistics, which we are studying right now. As I said, there are several instruments to measure the temperature as such. So these are one of the instruments which actually help in measuring temperature, that is maximum and minimum thermometer. This basically measures the highest and lowest temperatures in particular environment, and from this we can draw in the data whether the temperature was high or low in particular region. This image shows something actually. So what one can expect and by what time of the day is the temperature high at its peak, we can say. It's at afternoon. During afternoon time, around 12 o'clock or 12:30, if you see, the temperature rises drastically, and early morning, if one will observe, then that one can see that it's not much warm. It's pleasant warm. It's not very hot, as scorching as it is around afternoon. So this can be experienced. This can be measured with the help of maximum and minimum thermometer. Next, sun as a source of energy. Sun is the basic source of energy, primary source of energy for our planet. Whatever the rays reflected from the sun, rays coming from sun, is absorbed by our surface. Some of the harmful rays are reflected back, and the useful rays are transferred inside the earth, trapped inside, and that acts as a source of energy for our whole planet. Okay, there is a layer that basically protects us from harmful UV light that is coming from sun, and useful light is being observed and trapped in that basically acts as a source of heat for our earth, and that basically acts as a primary source of energy for everything. So we are highly dependent on sun. Climate is highly unpredictable, as I said. It could be thunderstorms, it could be extremely cold, it can be extremely pleasant, or it can be extremely warm. As I said, it can change anytime accordingly. When we compare when we take a particular state, for example, Kerala and Kashmir, if you take, these are some data which they have collected from past 25 years. And when past 25 years, when we take up the mean, we can get the absolute temperature of particular area. So that temperature, from that data we can tell that Yes, Jammu and Kashmir is extremely cold state, and Kerala is comparatively warmer as compared to Kashmir. So from this data, we can draw in the information that these information are being taken from past 25 years. Cumulative data, we can say. Cumulative data extrapolation. So when data is taken from past 25 years, daily temperatures is being measured minimum and maximum, and out of that the mean is taken, and the mean which we have taken, that is of 25 years, cumulative of 25 years. When we draw a conclusion, we get a particular output from that data. That is, we can understand a clear distinction that Kashmir is extremely cold and Kerala is comparatively warmer. So this analysis can be done with the help of using instrumentation, with the help of using different devices and technologies. So these are the usefulness of the instruments which we discussed earlier. Next, climate and adaptation. As I said, adaptation is very necessary for survival. If adaptation isn't exercised, we can say survival of fittest won't be exercised. Yes, survival won't be a possibility if adaptation is not there. What is exactly adaptation? We are getting used to our environment, our bodily changes that happens, that becomes positive for us, that aids us to live in particular habitat. That leads to adaptation. For example, if you see a polar bear, where polar bear can be found, for example, in extremely cold countries like Russia, Canada, Iceland, Greenland. These are the countries from which which there are extremely cold conditions one can observe. So what the animals living in extremely cold conditions should possess. For example, the white fur is not easily see the white fur which you're observing here. It actually camouflages the whole animal itself. So it's one of the defense mechanism, protection. It's used for protection. It has a very strong sense of smell because to figure out its prey, to figure out its food. It has very sharp claws as one can observe here, and that claws basically is used for grip. Ice is extremely slippery, so if there is no sharp claws, it could get slipped down. Okay, it has extreme layer of fat beneath the fur, and the fur is basically helps in thermoregulation of the body. Thermoregulation in the sense it is staying in extremely cold conditions, so it should not die of frostbite. So to adapt to that situation, it has furry external skin, and under the furry skin, it has a thick layer, fat layer of it has a thick layer of fat. I'm sorry, and that fat basically insulates the body, and that basically helps in thermoregulation. Heat regulation के लिए use किया जाता है. That basically keeps the organism warm in extreme conditions. Okay, now what is the benefits of all of this? Longevity increase होगा, the lifespan will exceed. And one more bonus point here is the polar bears can hibernate. That means it can slow down its bodily processes, and it can rest up to certain period. And in extremely cold countries, there is high imbalance of day and night cycle. 6 months there will be sunrise, and 6 months there won't be any sunrise. So, for surviving in such extreme conditions, such adaptation should be necessary for survival. So, these are some points here. Next organism, which is very interesting to watch, is penguins. Penguins, when you observe, they are very cute creatures as such, my personal opinion here. And when they walk, they are always found in groups. They have webbed feet as one can observe. That is for swimming purpose. Swimming. they use webbed feet. Webbed feet basically aid in swimming, and they travel in group and they snuggle with each other so that thermoregulation can happen and they won't die of extreme cold temperature. These are some adapting mechanisms to survive in extremely cold conditions. These are some interesting facts, I think. Now, next is Siberian crane. See, not every bird or every mammal or every fishes are getting adapted to particular area and they will stay there forever. Some try to escape that condition and migrate to places which are much more safer for them to survive. So the Siberian crane, what they does is, from Russia they fly and they come to Rajasthan, that is India. Rajasthan area they come in northwest part, I think. And there they come and settle for extremely warm temperature because they cannot handle extreme coldness. They might die, so they migrated. They migrate basically from Russia and they travel to India. Okay, and migration is one method of increasing the survival rate. It can also be termed as one method of adaptation because it gets a clear understanding that that habitat is not good for current situation. So it is escaping death and basically coming to the warmer space where it can have a good life. Now, tropical rainforests. The rainforests are basically the apt places, we can say. There is a proper balance of day and night here, and there are several organisms that flourish in tropical rainforests. The tropical rainforests are basically found in India, Uganda, and such other different countries. Okay, so some of the examples which we can look into it are some red-eyed frog. As you can see, it has the adaptation of sticky pads, which aids the frog to, you know, particularly stick to the substratum wherever it is, sitting, and that basically aids it from, getting away from predators. The skin color you observe, it is greenish in color, so it is sitting in a green leaf, so it gets easily camouflaged. So these are some preventive, defense mechanisms, preventive measures or prevention mechanisms to keep away from the sites of predators. This this one more adaptation you can see in monkeys here is long tail. Long tail, you can observe that long tail basically aids in grabbing the branches and making the balance of the monkeys in the tree. Next is elephants. Elephants is very has a very much great adaptation for tropical rainforests as such because it has a strong teeth that can tear up the bark of the trees. It has a very clear auditory senses that can hear very minute voices, and the ear pads which are seeing the ears, it has multifunction actually. It can cool off its body by flapping it. Next is, next is lion-tail macaque. This lion-tail macaque, it's also called as beard macaque, beard monkey. You can see this prominent silver mane across it. This is basically found in the trees in the higher branches, and it usually feeds on fruits, leaves, branches, and even small insects. So it never comes down. So these are some of the prominent adaptations of different animals, different mammals of tropical rainforests. I hope this topic was very clear. Thank you so much for listening. These are some references which I used. There are certain images which I took from internet. These images are used exclusively for educational purposes. So thank you so much for listening. This is your host, Miss Pillai, signing off. Take care.